Welcome into the Ohio State Football Report. I am Tom Downey. Today we're looking at the top defensive coordinator candidates for Ohio State's vacant DC job now that Jim Knowles has taken the Penn State DC job. They're ranked 10-1, a little bit in order of who I think would be most likely to accept the job, but there's a lot of room to go in this search. Before we get into that, noted OSU troll and Michigan Football Report host James Yoder bet me today that we could not get to 400 likes on this video. Let's prove him wrong again. Like the video right now. Now, because I've seen his name mentioned by several out there, I do want to put Luke Fickell at number 10. I don't think this is ever going to happen. Now, Luke Fickell might not have the best job security right now as the Wisconsin football head coach. I would be very surprised to see him jump back over to Ohio State and say, yes, I will take a pay decrease and take the DC job that, I can always get a DC job if and when I'm fired by Wisconsin. So I don't consider that. I saw someone say Mike Vrabel. That stuff's not going to happen. Need to be a little bit more realistic there. At number 9, probably a very realistic name, but also maybe one that we aren't in love with. So there is some balancing of like top targets and likely targets here. That's Mike Tressel, who, of course, was the Ohio State grad assistant back in 2002, 2003, has spent a lot of time at Cincinnati and at Michigan State. He is the current Wisconsin defensive coordinator. Also, again, worth mentioning that Wisconsin hasn't been that great the past couple of years, so maybe not the path you want to pursue anyway. Here's a big name for you. Glenn Schumann, the Georgia defensive coordinator, who doesn't really have a lot of ties to the Buckeyes. He was an Alabama student assistant, which you see occasionally. You see these guys like they're not going to play in college, but they're going to learn how to coach in college. GA for several years has rapidly risen to the Georgia co-defensive coordinator role. He's one of several names that are like, I think, top-tier guys that are like obvious DC candidates. If you can go spend a bag on somebody, Glenn Schumann does it. It's a pretty tall task, though, for a team that may or may not have been offering the same level of money that Penn State was offering Jim Knowles, if we believe Brett McMurphy's reporting. So who do you want as the next Ohio State defensive coordinator? Let me know at the pinned comment of today's show. Lots of different names. We're only getting to 10. There's a good 20 that you can throw in there. If the ad comes on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Number 7, Jim Leonhard, the current Broncos passing game coordinator. I would be really intrigued by this one. Now, he's had some semblance of NFL overtures. He's had lower-level college football interest back when he was the Wisconsin defensive coordinator. Kind of got passed over as the head coach when they hired Luke Fickell, and now is hanging out with Sean Payton and Vance Joseph up in Denver. There was a report already from I think it was Ian Rappaport that said he was going to stay in Denver. I don't know if that actually includes the Ohio State job potentially having interest in him, but he did drop down my list a little bit as a result. Number 6 is Iowa defensive coordinator Phil Parker. All he does, despite being hamstrung with really bad offenses at Iowa, is put up great defensive results. I don't know if he ever wants to actually leave Iowa. He has been there every year of his coaching career since the new century began in 2000. And he's a Michigan State defensive back. He's from Ohio. Could be coming home a little bit. He's now 61 years old. He makes I think it's like $2 million a year, something like that. If you could somehow sway Phil Parker into coming to Ohio State, that would be a massive get for OSU. Also wouldn't presume it to be a guarantee, since other teams have had interest, of course, in the past. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time's got a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. Always keep an eye out for the super deal. It is the best value for any given event, like the one for the Stadium Series, Red Wings and Blue Jackets at the Shoe, which is, I think outdoor hockey games are electric, and as long as it's cold enough, it ends up being a really good product on the ice as well. Looking forward to that one. Use the Game Time Fix feature. Also use the all-in pricing feature. Shows your total cost up front, so there are no surprise fees at checkout. The game time guarantee is this. You find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app by going to gametime.co, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Now, look, terms do apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but go download Game Time today for last-minute tickets at the lowest price, all guaranteed. An outside-the-box name here is Jerod Mayo, who it is worth mentioning, despite being the Patriots head coach in 2024 before getting fired, was elevated from the linebackers coach role, which he spent several years doing, was not actually ever a defensive coordinator. Now, Mike Vrabel wasn't a long-time defensive coordinator either. Vrabel, of course, replacing Jerod Mayo. Patriots ties, obvious there. But it's an outside-the-box name that I think is actually kind of fun and intriguing. Number 4, and this is a big fish I don't know if you'd actually be able to get, but it makes a lot of sense from the Ohio State perspective. It's Jeff Hafley, the current Packers defensive coordinator. Remember, he is right now, or 1 year into that Packers DC role. He was the Boston College head coach after he quickly rose from the Ohio State co-defensive coordinator role. He has spent time in the NFL. He has spent time in college, mostly with those defensive backs. Jim Knowles has the background there. Hafley would be a borderline home run hire at DC. Also not a guarantee you'd be able to get him. Now, we will be here all off-season long for you, covering the Ohio State Buckeyes. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. It's youtube.com/GoBucks. Let's go to ties here for more people with ties, I should say. Randy Bates, who took over as the Pitt Panthers defensive coordinator back in 2018, has held that role since then and for the most part put up pretty good results. Now, he is an Ohio State alumnus. He's also 64 years old, has never had a chance to coach at his alma mater. He did spend a season as a grad assistant at Miami of Ohio, and then has spent time at New Hampshire and Kent State and Louisiana Tech, and as the DC briefly. Long time as the Northwestern linebackers coach under Pat Fitzgerald. Spent a decade there. Has not been much of a job jumper, but his ties to Ohio State do make this one interesting. Number 2, if you want to continue the connections to the Ohio State organization and kind of poaching from Big Ten options, Bryant Hayes does stand out. Now, I will make note, maybe in direct response to the Ohio State job coming open, he allegedly did agree to a new deal with Indiana. Now, as we saw with Liam Cohen and the Bucks, until that is signed, it doesn't always mean that much. I think that was kind of already in the works, but he helped take that defense from, I think it was like 85th last year to like, I think second in total yards this past year, something crazy. Has the James Madison DC, knows Kirk Cincinnati very well, does have ties to Ohio State. He was a grad assistant here back in 2013. I think was high on the list and maybe already got contacted by OSU. May have been a factor in the extension, or maybe it's not signed yet. Who knows? Number 1, and I do wonder, and maybe I'm reading too much into Ryan Day kind of going out of his way to plays Matt Guerrieri, the Ohio State safeties coach. I am very intrigued by the reasoning behind Day kind of giving a lot of praise to Coach G at the celebration for the championship with Jim Knowles kind of told not to come because he was going to leave. This has been a Jim Knowles guy in the past. Duke co-DC before. 2018, 2021 has had that role despite being fairly young. Indiana co-DC back in 2023 before. That really wasn't all his fault as far as I'm concerned. And has spent time with OSU before. Had a lot of praise from Ryan Day. I would not sleep on this one. Plus, he took the job because it's a promotion. So what do you want? Do you want to go outside the program to hire the next DC? That's type in B for bring someone in. Or if you want to promote somebody, type in P. I also wouldn't rule out, as kind of part of this number 1 option, a co-DC title. You could give the co-DC title to Tim Walton and Matt. James Laurinaitis, Larry Johnson, I think are more position coaches. Like, I don't think Laurinaitis is ready for that role yet, frankly. Larry Johnson, I think, is just the best D-line coach. Let's not change his title necessarily. Tim Walton stands out here, too. He was the Rams DC very briefly back in 2013, has some DC experience, Miami and Memphis, has a lot of coaching experience, too. I could totally see a co-DC title with Walton kind of being the veteran insight guy and Matt Guerrieri being the play caller, actually. Laurinaitis, again, is probably not ready. He just took his first year as the linebackers coach, spent 2 years as a GA at Notre Dame and Ohio State. I like the path he's on. I think he needs some more time before he's actually ready to be a defensive coordinator.